This top 5 is another video requested by OAW patron Lil Young. Salute to you, sir. And if you have a request for a top 5 video you'd like to see done right here on OAW Entertainment, become a patron at patreon.com/OAW and select the top 5 tier. In addition to your request for the top 5 video of your choice, you also get access to all Patreon exclusive content. You get access to the OAW Vault, the OAW Discord server, and you get an invite to join in on the live monthly Q&A held right here on the OAW YouTube channel, as well as the OAW Facebook page and Twitch channel. So once again, that is patreon.com/OAW and select the top 5 tier. And with that being said, this is my list of my top 5 favorite anime OVAs. Let's get it started.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Greetings to everyone, and thank you again for tuning in. Shout out to the faithful and salute to the patrons. This is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, here to bring you all another top 5 video. And this time we will be taking a look at my top 5 favorite anime OVAs. So this was another interesting list to make just because I had to narrow this sucker down by just 5 choices, and this one pretty difficult to do. So for those of you all who may be wondering, Larry, what is an anime OVA? Well, OVA is an abbreviation for original video animation. And for any of you guys who know anything about anime, particularly not just the anime industry, but also the manner in which anime franchises were introduced and released stateside, there are a lot of OVAs. Certain series are considered anime OVAs. Certain movies are considered anime OVAs. It is a categorization that encompasses a lot of anime. Now that I've broken that down to you all, now you get why this was a difficult list to make, because that's a lot of anime. But I think I did manage to do a pretty good job at narrowing it down to my top 5. So starting things off, number 5 on my list is none other than the Dragon Ball Z OVA, The History of Trunks. And I felt obliged, I felt obligated to pretty much put this one on the list because this was the production that introduced me to the concept of an OVA. Over here in the States, particularly if you guys were introduced to this production via Toonami, it was, broadcast, marketed, televised as a movie. But if you actually go and you look it up, I think at the time, prior to Super, I think it was there are 13 official Dragon Ball Z movies and 2 OVAs. That would be Bardock, the Father of Goku, and The History of Trunks. So yeah, when I looked that up, now granted, this was back in high school, but when I looked that up, when I was like, wait a minute, what about History of Trunks? That's when I read it's like, oh, History of Trunks is not considered a Dragon Ball Z movie because it's considered one of the OVAs. And that's when I was like, well, what the hell is an OVA? And then of course, that's when I learned the description I gave you guys at the beginning of the video. So that being said, seeing as how this was my introduction into what an OVA actually is, I felt obligated to put it on the list. That's not to say that it's not worthy to be on the list either. History of Trunks is a great OVA. It's a great production. It is my favorite Dragon Ball Z story and centers on who has become my favorite Dragon Ball Z character, and that is not just Trunks, but future Trunks. This version of Trunks is my favorite one. This is the version of Trunks that we later see at the start of the Android saga. This is also the version of Trunks that returns in the Goku Black story arc from Dragon Ball Super. And this is also the version of Trunks that is the sort of co-protagonist in the Xenoverse games. Yes, I'm pretty sure I've done a full-blown review of History of Trunks on the channel before. If I haven't, I actually need to. But yeah, I always loved this OVA. I love the story. I loved the animation. I loved the characterization of the characters that we were familiar with, because essentially this is sort of an alternate future, an alternate telling of what happens. And I love how I love that, this is the production that gives us, I think, everyone's favorite, or at least one of the more popular favorite versions of Gohan, because that is the adult Gohan that we've always wanted to see, that we grew to admire. That is the adult that's the version of Gohan that we were like, oh yeah, after he beat Cell, Team Gohan Savior, like that, that's the older version of him, which technically speaking wouldn't exist if you all remember how time travel works within this series and things of that nature. The Gohan that beat Cell wouldn't have turned into the Gohan from this OVA because of the way the time travel works, because this is an alternate Gohan. Anywho, don't want to get lost in the weeds of that. Point being is, I love the characterizations of the characters in this one. Amongst my favorite is the version of 17 and 18 that we get in this one. They're terrifying, they're menacing, they play great foils. So if you guys have not yet done so, I highly recommend History of Trunks. Check it out, and that's why it's number 5 on the list. So coming in at number 4 on the list is one of those miniseries that I mentioned to you guys, and that's none other than Helsing Ultimate. So same thing, right? Helsing Ultimate, this is an anime series, but if you go and you look it up, technically speaking, it's categorized as an OVA, and that's because it is a miniseries. Because I think, what is it? I think it's 6 episodes long, if memory serves. I could be wrong about that. Mainly because I think it also, I think it is 6 1-hour episodes. But Helsing Ultimate, if you guys have not seen this one yet, what are you waiting for? Essentially, it is a remake of the original Helsing anime, which is an adaptation of the Helsing manga. But this one is more faithful. It's more concise, more condensed, and it packs a bigger punch because this one is unrated. Like, the violence is cranked up to 11. It even has, of course, it has profanity and stuff like that, particularly in episode 2. If memory serves, with the quote unquote thug vampires, which is very perverse, and I didn't care for it. Like, that is swearing done wrong. But regardless, like, really cool series. Just the history, the mythology, the lore of the world in this one. Again, we're sort of doing like an alternate history sort of thing, where it's like this world that exists within this series is very much the same as our world until it divulges into the fantastical and into the horror and supernatural elements, and then that's when it becomes sort of a world of its own. It's very much operating with the idea with the whole Helsing organization. They are a behind the scenes shadow operation, and they're essentially like MI6 but for the supernatural and the macabre. But yeah, totally freaking dig it. It is awesome. I don't know what else can be said about it without spoiling it. Now, this is one I don't believe I have reviewed on the channel proper, and I probably should, because matter of fact, it was on the list for an anime favorites review, but I never got around to it. But you guys let me know in the comments below if y'all want to see me actually review this one proper, because there's not enough I could say about Helsing Ultimate. If you have not checked it out yet, I will tell you this. If you like horror, and if you like horror anime, anything supernatural like that, this is right up your alley. Like, it is awesome. So that's why it's number 4 on the list. Now, coming in at number 3 on the list, this is an OVA I probably will do a proper review of relatively soon. And that's because, I don't know if you guys heard, but it has been announced that Netflix is doing a remake of this freaking OVA. And that is none other than Bastard. Okay, so some of you guys may have never heard of this before. This is very much an old school. It was one of those like obscure anime titles, and chances are, unless you had like an older sibling or an older cousin or a friend that ran, or if you managed to run across this in your local video store. Do y'all remember video stores? Chances are you might not have ever even heard of this one, just because I don't remember any television networks ever airing it. And I mean, sci-fi might have back in the day, probably. And then, of course, I know by the time, streaming, internet streaming, I'm not talking about like Netflix streaming. I'm talking about just streaming online, period. When back in the freaking Date Bio torrent days and stuff like that, like no one ever talked about this one. So y'all probably wondering, well, Larry, how the hell did you find out about it? Easy, older sibling. Big sister put me onto this. She made me pretty much like she got me a bunch of DVDs of animes and whatnot, and this just so happened to be in that pile because she managed to get a hold of it. And so I checked it out one day and I was like, what the hell? But okay, so let me just get into this, not to make the video too long. So Bastard is pretty much a dark fantasy story, and long story short, it is the story of a wizard, sorcerer, whichever one you want to use, named Dark Schneider, who once upon a time, actually I think it's 15 years prior, as of the start of this series, he tried to take over the world. Essentially, he was stopped and then sort of like sealed away. Some people believed he was dead. This is that and the other, but he ends up being reincarnated into the body of this little boy, and then he is able to sort of wake up, take over the boy's body, and return back to full form and begin his world conquest again. But it is a pretty cool series, if nothing else, for when this series came out. Because like I said, this is one of the OG ones. Animation is pretty good. In terms of the English dub, the voice acting is on point. Matter of fact, some of my favorite voice actors contribute to the English dub. Check out my top 5 favorite anime voice actors to know who I'm talking about on there. But and then like the action's pretty good, and like I said, the story's interesting. The lore and the mythology is really engaging. If you're fans, I would go as far as to this. Now, I'm not the biggest, of course, you guys might know, I'm not the biggest fan or even a patron, I would consider myself, of the Berserk series, but I do think that fan base would get a kick out of this one, if nothing else, because Bastard does a lot of like fantasy and like D&D type parody. So I mean it's not slapstick blatant parody, but there is a lot of like dark humor and whatnot that contributes itself well if you're already a fan of other like anime and manga, or just in general of like dark fantasy. You'll probably get a kick out of Bastard, because it's pretty good. So like I said, guys, check it out if you manage to do so. I don't know if it is streaming, like if it is officially streaming anywhere online via like Crunchyroll or Hulu or anything like that, or but what you guys can do is check out the manga, because I do remember running across the manga a couple of years ago. Oddly enough, I saw it in Barnes and Noble. I was shocked. I figured it was a reprint. I was like, oh snap, they're reprinting it. But of course, check online, check Amazon, eBay, Half Price Books. You guys could probably find the manga there. Same thing goes with the OVA. You guys could probably find an old copy of one of the DVDs via that way. And then, of course, like I said, the new series is coming via Netflix, I believe, next year. It's either next year or it's the end of this year is when it's dropping. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's why Bastard is number 3 on my list. All right, so coming in at number 2 on the list, this is another old school anime. Some of you guys may have heard of, some of you guys may have not. This is Shadow Skill. Okay, now let me tell y'all about Shadow Skill. So funny enough, I actually got introduced to Shadow Skill via my boy Ian. Shout out to him. One of my best friends met, dude, this was all the way back in like 7th grade, right? This is like the fall of 2001. And oh God, man, like, oh, like 20 years ago, right? But the thing is, so Ian got introduced to Shadow Skill because, remember what I said about the older siblings, right? His big brother, Iron, got him into this series because, again, they had it on DVD and whatnot. And so the first time I go kick it over at Ian's house, because I remember him always telling me about this series when we were at school or whatever, but I had never heard of it. I had never seen it. And so I go ahead, hang out with Ian one afternoon, and he pops it in, and I'm like, yo, dude, what what? And then later, like I said, when I told you my big sis hooked me up with a bunch of anime DVDs when I was in high school, this was one of the ones that was there. And I was like, oh snap, I remember this. Oh snap. So yeah, so Shadow Skill, this one I think it's 4 episodes because it's 4 OVAs, and the DVD I have is a collection of all 4. And then there's the movie, which if I think the way they did it with the categorization and whatnot, the movie, what is it? Is it 4 OVAs total, and the movie is like 3 of them or something like that? It's like I said, it's a bunch of them on there because it's 4 separate ones that's on the DVD. And my favorite of the 4 is the one that is regarded as the movie. But yeah, Shadow Skill. This is a series. Again, manga adaptation because there is a manga for it if you guys are interested in checking it out. But so this is the story of 2 siblings, Ella and Gao, and essentially they live in a fictional fantasy world or whatever, the kingdom of Karuta, where like that kingdom's regarded for its warriors, right? Like that's the kingdom known for producing like the most elite warriors like on the planet, right? And so they go on different adventures, pretty much encountering other warriors and testing their shadow skill against those fighters. And there's an explanation in the series about the shadow skill and what is it, and because Ella is like, she's the master of it. That is like her particular martial art that she's perfected. But throughout the course of the series, like they meet other people who practice it as well. The main crux of the story is that she is teaching Gao the shadow skill, and he's learning it as they go along. And it pretty much is sort of leading to, or it's a culminating in 2 things: Ella and Gao finally duking it out to test their shadow skills against each other. And then, of course, there's the I'm forgetting his name, but he's like the I guess you could call him the champion of Karuta. Like he's like the most elite warrior in Karuta, and by virtue of that, like the world, he's like the best in the world. And he, and everyone looks up to him and admire him, and he's a hero of Gao and whatnot. But like the story, you can tell by the way the story is going that it's leading up to Gao's fight with him. But yeah, like it's really cool. It is, I mean, it's a martial art like fantasy series. So if you are a fan of either one of those, you'll get a kick out of it. Particularly for any of like my like martial arts enthusiasts, or any of my any of you guys who are like fans of like just really good fights. Shadow Skill has some bomb ass fights in it. Really cool. I highly recommend it. Now, I can't remember if I'm pretty sure it was during one of the Q&As where either it was mentioned or someone asked me about like a Shadow Skill like remake, pretty much like the one Bastard is getting ready to receive. This is an anime that like merits that. Like if you want to talk about remaking anime, like a proper remake of Shadow Skill, we are long overdue for. But like I said, if you guys have not yet, check this one out. Again, this is another one. I don't know where it's streaming officially, but check Amazon, eBay, Half Price Books. Check your local anime shop. You might be surprised. You might come across the DVD, or you might come across the manga. But yeah, I highly recommend Shadow Skill. Check it out. And yeah, this one I know I haven't reviewed yet, but this is another one. Like, let me know in the comments below. Thumb up the comment if you guys really want to see it. Let me see the numbers, because I definitely would not mind reviewing Shadow Skill. It's awesome, and that's why it makes it number 2 on my list. And finally, that brings me to the number one, my all-time favorite anime OVA. Now, this one probably shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, because I've talked ad nauseum about this film multiple times on the channel. I have a review of it with my man Uber Hikari. Check that one out. But yes, number 1 on my list for top 5 favorite anime OVAs is Samurai X Trust and Betrayal, which is the Rurouni Kenshin prequel film. Yes, like I said, I have a full-blown review. I think that thing is over an hour. Me and Hikari talking about this film. It's great, beautifully written, beautifully animated. Whether you watch the Japanese dub or the English dub, both productions are fantastic. The music's on point, and it is my favorite Rurouni Kenshin story. And it's definitely one of the most, of course, it's one of the most impactful because it's the story, the origin of the scar, how he got it, pretty much how Kenshin, really, because the story goes all the way back to Kenshin's childhood, and it covers his history up to the height of the Bakumatsu. When Kenshin earned, the title, Hitokiri Batosai, the Manslayer, it's pretty, everything that led him up to that point, this is the story. And for any of you guys who are fans of Rurouni Kenshin, whether the original anime series or if you're a fan of the film, matter of fact, I think if memory serves, I think we have finally adapted this one in live action, because I want to say that was the last of Rurouni Kenshin live action movies that was released. Because they did the Anishi arc, which is the direct, I guess you could say the direct sequel from this one. But I want to say they did the Anishi arc and they did this one, and both of those films came out 2020, like either right before or right after the lockdown was when they came out, and then they were on Netflix for a while. I think at the beginning of last year. I don't know if they're still on there, but yeah, I think we did finally do this one in live action. Suffice it to say, fantastic story. If you guys have not yet checked this out, I highly recommend it. You know what I think of it. OAW stamp of approval right here. But yeah, again, remember what I said at the start of this video? What qualifies as an OVA? Like I said, it can consist of some anime series, mini-series, and films. And this one would be considered an OVA. That's why it made it number one on my list. So just to recap for you guys, running down the list one more time, coming in at number 5 is the DBZ OVA History of Trunks. Coming in at number 4 is the miniseries Helsing Ultimate. Coming in at number 3 is another miniseries. This one is called Bastard. Keep a lookout for the remake dropping on Netflix soon. Coming in at number 2 is a collection, whole series of OVAs, right? And that is none other than Shadow Skill. And then, like I said, last but certainly not least, coming in at number 1 is the Rurouni Kenshin prequel film. That is Samurai X Trust and Betrayal. And that concludes my list of my top 5 favorite anime OVAs. I want to take this opportunity to do another huge shout out to my man, longtime OAW faithful and patron Khalil Young, for requesting this video. Thanks so much. Salute to you, sir. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. And this is another reminder for you guys, if you have yet to do so, if you have an idea, a list you want to see me tackle right here on OAW Entertainment, become a patron at patreon.com/OAW and select that top 5 tier. So I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody once again for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Follow me on social media. Oh, wait, before you do that, though, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media, facebook.com/OAW Entertainment, twitter.com/OAWENTNT, twitch.tv/OAW OAW_entertainment, youtube.com/OAW Entertainment, and then, of course, patreon.com/OAW. The links to all of those are in the description box below. And before I forget, guys, what are some of your favorite anime OVAs? Drop those in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys got to say. You guys probably got some ones that I forgot to mention. Man, there was no honorable mentions for this one because it could have gone on forever, right? But with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and until next time, peace.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?